When I started writing about stretching and flexibility way back in the early 1990s, one of the goals I had was to bring stretching and flexibility into mainstream conversations about health and fitness. Because at the time, no one was talking about stretching and flexibility. Maybe people were talking about diet and nutrition, or maybe they were talking about strength training or weight training, but virtually no one was talking about stretching and flexibility. So one of my goals was to bring stretching and flexibility into mainstream conversations about health and fitness. And the other day, I got asked to go join a running group, which I did, and tagged along with this running group, turned up at 5 o'clock in the morning, and there's probably about 20 or 25 people there, and we headed out for a run. Now, normally when I join a new group, I just like to sort of hang at the back, have a chat with a few people, get to know the people in the group, get to know what the group's about, and so forth. So anyway, I was jogging along, and there was about 5 or 6 of us at the back of the group, and one of the guys started telling one of the ladies about how it's important to keep your foot up when you're doing a hamstring stretch. And he was talking about the alignment of the hamstring and the alignment of the foot, and so I'm running along listening to this. He had no idea who I was or what I do, and I thought to myself, this is just fantastic. This is exactly what I started all this writing and all my career basically. Over 20 years ago, 25 years ago, I wanted to get people talking about stretching and flexibility, and it was such a buzz to hear this guy, and he wasn't a coach or a trainer or anything. He was just a general average Joe having a run with a few of his mates, and he was just giving some advice about how to stretch properly and how to get more out of your stretching. And I thought that was just fantastic that someone like that was, talking about stretching and flexibility and bringing it into mainstream conversations about health and fitness. So that was a big buzz for me the other day, and it was, and whether I had anything directly to do with him talking about alignment and stretching and flexibility, probably not, but in some small way, I'd like to think that I contributed. So that was a real buzz for me. So what I wanted to just spend a couple of minutes talking about was alignment. And, he was making the point how important it is to keep your foot up while you're doing a hamstring stretch. But I want to go on from there. So what I might do is I'm actually going to show you what he was talking about. So I'm just going to zoom out so you can see a little bit more. I'm going to stand up and show you a hamstring stretch and proper alignment. So I just moved the chair out of the way. So what this guy was talking about, he was talking about doing a hamstring stretch and making sure your foot is placed in a way so that it's straight up and down. Now why do that? Because a lot of times I see people doing hamstring stretch and they'll let their foot fall out to the side. So why is it important to keep that foot up? Well, the hamstrings and the calves are not just one big muscle. They're actually made up of a lot of smaller muscles. And what happens is if you let your foot fall out to the side, you put emphasis on only one part of the hamstring muscle or only one part of the calf. So if you do this repeatedly over and over again, what you end up with is an imbalance. An imbalance between the outside of the hamstrings and the inside of the hamstrings, or one side of the calf and the other side of the calf. So it really is important that you keep that foot nice up and down so that everything's in alignment. And this was one of the things I wrote about back in 1995 when I published my first book. So it was great to see someone talking about it in everyday conversation with someone else. So that's really important. The other thing that's really important is the hip alignment. Now it's important to keep your hips at a 90-degree angle to your hamstrings. Again, why is that important? Because, as I see a lot of people doing, they'll turn the hips out like this, so they'll do their hamstring stretch out to the side. Well, what that does is that places an emphasis on the inside or the medial side of the hamstring. So the medial side of the hamstring and the groin gets a great stretch, but the outside gets neglected. And again, if you do this repeatedly over time, you create this imbalance between the inside of your hamstring and the outside of your hamstring. So it's important to keep those hips nice and square. But I want to go on and take one step further from that. Not only is it important to look after your alignment and make sure everything's lined up properly, but it's also important to vary your alignment. So while it's not a good idea to stretch with your hips open like this all the time, it is a great idea to vary your stretching. So sometimes you're stretching with your hips open, so you're putting that emphasis on the medial side or inside of your hamstrings. But it's also important to stretch with those hips closed off, so to move the leg across this way, and then that places the emphasis on the outside or the lateral side of your hamstrings. So you're getting an emphasis on not only straight down the middle, but you're also getting an emphasis on the inside and the outside. And you can do this with a lot of muscle groups. You can do it with the calves, for example. So in that case, what I might do is just take my shoe off so you can see a little bit better. But with the calf, what you can do is you can start off with your foot nice, up and down, everything in alignment, but then sure, let it drop out to the side and give a little stretch. Then turn it to the inside and give a little stretch that way. It's also a good idea, you can invert your foot, so turning your foot in this way, but then also turning your foot out that way. So while alignment's really important and it's really good to keep everything nice and square and in a line, don't be afraid to vary the position. And so you're getting you're emphasising different parts of that muscle group. So anyway, that's my tip for this week. Make sure you're conscious of your alignment and talk to people about stretching and flexibility. If you have the opportunity, talk with people, chat with people, pass on what you learn from me, pass on to other people around you, and hopefully they'll benefit from it as well. So thanks very much for watching, take care, and I'll talk to you soon. Bye for now.